Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 24 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, titled, The Material World is the Great Forest of Enjoyment. So we are still in the first section, from verse 1 to verse 41, which is titled, Shukadeva Goswami gives a detailed description of the forest of enjoyment. And we're continuing on today with verse 27. Let's see how we go. You never know, we might finish, but anyway, if not, it's fine. So let's just carry on though and just take it as it comes. First, our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastutyade Jatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Trulubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So this is now Shukadeva Goswami clarifying to Maharaj Parikshit what are all the details and different understandings and perspectives about the forest of material enjoyment and comparisons between different experiences, different living beings even, and different experiences people have in material life. Verse 27. In this materialistic life there are many difficulties, as I've just mentioned, and all of these are insurmountable. In addition, there are difficulties arising from so-called happiness, distress, attachment, hate, fear, false prestige, illusion, madness, lamentation, bewilderment, greed, envy, enmity, insult, hunger, thirst, tribulation, disease, birth, old age, and death. What a list! Hare Krishna. Yeah, difficulties arise from these things. All these combine together to give the materialistic conditioned soul nothing but misery. So Prabhupada comments, conditioned souls have to accept all these conditions just to enjoy sense gratification. And people declare themselves to be great scientists, economists, philosophers, whatever like that. But they're just rascals. That's Prabhupada calling a spade a spade. Therefore, they're described as mudhas, fools, and naradamas, means just heavy materialists. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 15, namam duskritano mudha. We can give the translation. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So due to their foolishness, all of these materialists are described in Bhagavad Gita as naradamas. Yes, very low living beings. They get the human form to get out of material bondage, but they make their situation worse. They become further embarrassed in more miserable material conditions. Therefore, they are naradamas, the lowest of men. And a person may ask, are these scientists, philosophers, etc. also naradamas, the lowest of men? Prabhupada says the answer is yes, because they have no knowledge. They're simply proud of their prestige, their position, but they don't know how to get rid how to get relief from materialistic life and how to get into spiritual life. These are the qualifications of the demons. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 11 makes the point that when a person has these demoniac qualities, he becomes a mudha. He envies the Lord. So then birth after birth, the person is born in demoniac families and transmigrates from one demoniac body to another. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, thus he forgets his relationship with Krishna and remains a Naradama in an abominable condition, life after life. Verse 28. Sometimes the conditioned soul is attracted by illusion personified, his wife or girlfriend, and becomes eager to be embraced by a woman. Thus he loses his intelligence as well as knowledge of life's goal. At that time, no longer attempting spiritual cultivation, he becomes overly attached to his wife or girlfriend and tries to provide her with a suitable apartment. Again, he becomes very busy under the shelter of that house and is captivated by the talks, glances, and activities of his wife and children. In this way, he loses his Krishna consciousness and throws himself in the dense darkness of material existence. So, Prabhupada points out, when the conditioned soul is embraced by his wife, he forgets all about Krishna consciousness. Bankim Chandra, a famous Bengali, says, to the eyes of a lover, the beloved is always beautiful, even though ugly. This attraction is called Deva Maya. So the attraction between man and woman is the cause of bondage for both. Both belong to the para-prakriti, the superior energy, but ultimately both are prakriti, female in terms of deeper nature. But because they want to enjoy each other, they're sometimes described as purusha, male, even the woman. But neither is actually purusha, either male or female. But as soon as they unite, they become attached to home, land, friendship, money, and become entrapped. So Prabhupada says the word Bhuja Lata Upaguda means being embraced by beautiful arms, which are compared to creepers. This describes the way the conditioned soul is bound within the material world. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the products of sex life, sons and daughters, certainly follow. This is the way of material existence. Verse 29, the personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called Hari Chakra, the disc of Hari. This chakra is the wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of the atoms up to the time of Brahma's death, and it controls all activities. It is always revolving and spending the lives of the living entities from Lord Brahma down to an insignificant blade of grass. Thus one changes from infancy to childhood to youth and maturity, and thus one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exacting because it is the personal weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from imminent danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is the indefatigable time factor. The conditioned soul instead takes shelter of a man-made God described in unauthorized scriptures. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, herons and crows. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them other than being like buzzards, vultures, herons, and crows. Imminent death is like the attack of a lion, and neither vultures, buzzards, crows, nor herons can save one from such an attack. One who takes shelter of unauthorized, man-made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. So Prabhupada begins the purport by saying, it is stated, Harim vina mritim nataranti. No one can save himself from the cruel hands of death without being favored by Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which in the verse it's Harim vina, without Hari, Krishna. But Bhagavad Gita says, Mam evaye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. That's Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Whoever fully surrenders unto Krishna can be saved from the cruel hands of material nature. So, but anyway, the conditioned souls want to take shelter of demigods, man-made gods, pseudo-incarnations, bogus swamis, yogis. They're all cheaters who claim to follow religious principles. And they're popular in Kali Yuga. So many pashandis, means atheists, who don't refer to Shastra but pose as incarnations. And there are many fools who follow them. And even though Krishna has left Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, these fools accept man-made scriptures and try to compete with Lord Krishna. So this is the greatest difficulty when we try to promote spiritual consciousness in human society. And the Krishna consciousness movement is trying its best to bring people back to Krishna consciousness in a pure form. But the pashandis and atheists, the cheaters, are so numerous, we sometimes wonder how to push the movement forward. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in any case, we cannot accept the unauthorized ways of so-called incarnations, gods, cheaters, and bluffers, who are described here as crows, vultures, buzzards, and herons. Verse 30, the pseudo-swamis, yogis, and incarnations who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are known as pashandis. They themselves are fallen and cheated because they do not know the real path of spiritual advancement. And whoever goes to them is certainly cheated in his turn. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles, Brahmins, or those in Krishna consciousness, who teach everyone how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the Vedic rituals. However, being unable to stick to these principles, these rascals again fall down and take shelter among Sudras, who are very expert in making arrangements for sex indulgence. Sex is very prominent among animals like monkeys, and such people who are enlivened by sex may be called descendants of monkeys. So Srila Prabhupada comments, by going through the process of evolution, spiritual evolution, from aquatics to animals, one eventually comes to the human form. The three modes are always working in that process of evolution. So, the system works as follows, Prabhupada says. Those who come to the human form through Sattva Gun were cows in their last animal incarnation. Those who come through the quality of Rajagun were lions in their last animal incarnation. And those who come to the human form through the quality of tamagun, ignorance, were monkeys in their last animal incarnation. So now, Prabhupada makes the point, those who have come through monkeys are considered by anthropologists like Darwin to be descendants of monkeys. And those who are simply interested in sex life are no better than monkeys. Monkeys are very expert, Prabhupada says, in sexual enjoyment. And sometimes sex glands are taken from monkeys and placed in the human body so that a human being can enjoy sex in old age. And Prabhupada makes the point that many monkeys from India were caught so their sex glands could be used by old people so they could enjoy sex more. So those who actually descend from monkeys want to expand their aristocratic families, quote unquote, through sex. And actually the Vedas have ceremonies for sexual improvement and promotion to heavenly planets. So second paragraph. So first, the conditioned soul is cheated by so-called yogis and avatars when approaching them for relief from material miseries. But when not satisfied with them, they come to the devotees for liberation. But the unscrupulous conditioned soul cannot follow the four regulative principles, so falls down, leaves Krishna consciousness, takes shelter of people who are like monkeys. So Prabhupada makes the point, in this Krishna consciousness movement, these monkey disciples, unable to follow regulative principles, sometimes fall down and try to form societies based on sex. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, this is proof that such people are descendants of monkeys, as confirmed by Darwin. In this verse it is therefore clearly stated, Yata Vanara Jate. And we were told that Prabhupada said that Darwin, in his theory of evolution, he says that his grandfather was a monkey. And when I consider this theory of evolution, it's so stupid, Prabhupada said, that I think, yes, his grandfather must have been a monkey. Verse 31. In this way, the descendants of the monkeys intermingle with each other, and they're generally known as Sudras. Without hesitating, they live and move freely, not knowing the goal of life. They're captivated simply by seeing the faces of one another, which remind them of sense gratification. They're always engaged in material activities, known as gramya karma, and they work hard for material benefit. Thus they forget completely that one day their small lifespans will be finished and they'll be degraded in the evolutionary cycle. So Prabhupada comments, materialists are sometimes called Sudras or descendants of monkeys due to their monkey-like intelligence, and they don't care how evolution is working and don't care what will happen to them after their human birth. This is the attitude of Sudras. So Lord Chaitanya's movement is trying to elevate Sudras to become Brahmins and then accept the goal of life. But materialists are not interested in helping this movement because they're too attached to sense gratification. Even some try to suppress it. And it is the business of monkeys to disturb the activities of Brahmins. The descendants of the monkeys completely forget that they're going to die. They're proud of their scientific knowledge and material progress. The word gramya karmana indicates activities only for improving bodily comforts. And now all of human society is engaged basically only in that. Improving economic situation, bodily comforts. Not interested in knowing what happens after death. Don't believe in transmigration of the soul. But if we study evolution, we see the human life is a junction where you can go up, promotion, or down, degradation. So Prabhupada cites Bhagavad Gita 9:25, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors will go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. Second paragraph. So the thing is, in this life, we must prepare systematically and constructively for the next life. Those in Rajagun, they want promotion to heaven. Those in ignorance, they're not really, they are preparing for animal forms, not deliberately, but just by dint of how they live. But those in goodness, they may engage in devotional service, they should, and then go back to Godhead. So this movement's trying to bring intelligent people to devotional service, rather than them wasting their time for better positions in material life. Make an effort to go back to Godhead. Then all problems are solved. So Bhagavatam 1.2.17, Srinvatam Swakata Krishna. I'll just read the translation. It says, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Supersoul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And now there's a third paragraph. All you have to do is follow the regulative principles, act like a Brahmin, chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, do a little service, then you become purified of the lower modes. You get peace of mind. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in this way one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and one's relationship with Him, and thus be promoted to the highest perfection, Siddhim Paramam Gata. 32. Just as a monkey jumps from one tree to another, the conditioned soul jumps from one body to another. As the monkey is ultimately captured by the hunter and is unable to get out of captivity, the conditioned soul, being captivated by momentary sex pleasure, becomes attached to different types of bodies and is encaged in family life. Family life affords the conditioned soul a festival of momentary sex pleasure, and thus he is completely unable to get out of the material clutches. So Prabhupada refers to Srimad Bhagavatam 11.9.29, Vishaya Kalu Sarvata Syat. The bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, they are easily available in any form of life. So it's said here, monkeys are very attached to sex. Each monkey has at least 24 wives and jumps from tree to tree to enjoy sex. The conditioned soul does the same thing, transmigrating from one body to another and engaging in sex, and completely forgets how to become free from material entanglement. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, sometimes the monkey is captured by a hunter who sells its body to doctors so that its gland can be removed for the benefit of another monkey. All this is going on in the name of economic development and improved sex life. So what Prabhupada is saying, the doctors take out the monkey's sex glands and then give them to another monkey, means a human-bodied person who wants to improve their sex life in old age. Verse 33, in this material body, when the conditioned soul forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and does not care for Krishna consciousness, he simply engages in different types of mischievous and sinful activities. He's then subjected to the threefold miseries, and out of fear of the elephant of death, he falls into the darkness found in a mountain cave. So Srila Prabhupada gives a short purport, which I'll just read. Everyone is afraid of death, and however strong a materialistic person may be, when there's disease and old age, one must certainly accept death's notice. The conditioned soul becomes very morose to receive notice of death. His fear is compared to the fear experienced upon entering a dark mountain cave, and death is compared to a great elephant. Verse 34, the conditioned soul suffers many miserable bodily conditions, such as being affected by severe cold and strong winds. He also suffers due to the activities of other living beings and due to natural disturbances. These are the three miseries. When he's unable to counteract them and has to remain in a miserable condition, he naturally becomes very morose because he wants to enjoy material facilities. There's no purport to this verse. On to verse 35. Sometimes conditioned souls exchange money, but in course of time enmity arises because of cheating. Although there may be a tiny profit, the conditioned souls cease to be friends and become enemies. So Srila Prabhupada mentions Bhagavatam 558, Pumsasriya mitani bhavam etam, and he paraphrases the translation. The monkey-like conditioned soul first becomes attached to sex, and when intercourse actually takes place, he becomes more attached. He then requires some material comforts, apartment, house, food, friends, wealth, and so on. To get these things, he has to cheat. This creates enmity even among close friends, sometimes even between the conditioned soul and the father or spiritual master. So unless one is firmly fixed in the regulative principles, one may do mischief, even if you're a member of the Krishna consciousness movement. So we advise our members to strictly follow the regulative principles. If not, this movement will be hampered by dissension among the members. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, those who are serious about pushing forward this Krishna consciousness movement should remember this and strictly follow the regulative principles so that their minds will not be disturbed. Verse 36, sometimes having no money, the conditioned soul does not get sufficient accommodations. Sometimes he doesn't even get a place to sit, nor does he have the other necessities. In other words, he falls into scarcity, and at that time when he is unable to secure the necessities by fair means, he decides to seize the property of others unfairly. When he cannot get the things he wants, he simply receives insults from others and thus becomes very morose. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, there's a saying, it was already mentioned actually, was it today or yesterday or just very recently, necessity knows no law. When a conditioned soul needs money to survive, he'll do anything, beg, borrow, or steal. But oftentimes, even when he tries to get it, he doesn't get it, but he gets insulted and chastised. Because unless you're well organized, you can't get riches by unfair means. You've got to be intelligent. And even if you do get riches by unfair means, you can't avoid punishment from the government and a bad name amongst the people. So many people do embezzlement, get caught, go to jail. Maybe you can avoid jail, but you can't avoid punishment from the Lord through the material nature. So Bhagavad Gita 7:14 describes this. Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya darachya. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, nature is very cruel. She does not excuse anyone. When people do not care for nature, they commit all kinds of sinful activities, and consequently they have to suffer. Verse 37. Although people may be enemies, in order to fulfill their desires again and again, they sometimes get married. Unfortunately, these marriages do not last very long, and the people involved are separated again by divorce or other means. So, of course, we've just been going through in some detail the fact that every conditioned soul has the tendency to cheat, and it even happens in marriage, because every living entity is envious. So, for some time people are friends, eventually they become enemies, and oftentimes they end up fighting over money. Sometimes they marry but then separate, divorce. So on the whole, unity is never permanent, nowadays particularly on the material level. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, even in Krishna consciousness, separation and enmity take place due to the prominence of material propensities. Verse 38. The path of this material world is full of material miseries, and various troubles disturb the conditioned soul. Sometimes he loses and sometimes he gains. In either case, the path is full of danger. Sometimes the conditioned soul is separated from his father by death or other circumstances. Leaving him aside, he gradually becomes attached to others, such as his children. In this way, the conditioned soul is sometimes illusioned and afraid. Sometimes he cries out loudly out of fear. Sometimes he's happy, maintaining his family. And sometimes he's overjoyed and sings melodiously. In this way, he becomes entangled and forgets his separation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead since time immemorial. Thus he traverses the dangerous path of material existence, and on this path he is not at all happy. Those who are self-realized simply take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to get out of this dangerous material existence. Without accepting the devotional path, one cannot get out of the clutches of material existence. The conclusion is that no one can be happy in material life. One must come to Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada says, if a sane person analyzes the materialistic way of life, the person will see there's not the least happiness there. But due to the tendency to just continue on and not associate with devotees, the conditioned soul continues to want to enjoy the material world. Sometimes Maya gives the chance to enjoy, but still the conditioned soul is continually being punished by Maya. So therefore, the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 20 verse 118 says, I'll just speak the translation. Materialistic life means continuous unhappiness, but sometimes we accept happiness as it appears between the gaps. Sometimes a condemned person is submerged in water and then hauled out. So he's being submerged for punishment, but he still feels little comfort when taken out of the water. And this is the situation of the conditioned soul. So Shastra advises we associate with devotees. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastre Koi. That even by a little association with devotees, the conditioned soul can get out of this miserable material condition. So Prabhupada again emphasizes this Krishna consciousness movement is trying to give everyone the chance to associate with saints. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, therefore all the members of this Krishna consciousness movement must themselves be perfect sadhus in order to give a chance to fallen conditioned souls. This is the best humanitarian work. Verse 39, saintly persons who are friends to all living entities have a peaceful consciousness. They have controlled their senses and minds, and they easily attain the path of liberation, the path back to Godhead. Being unfortunate and attached to the miserable material conditions, a materialistic person cannot associate with them. Right, so Srila Prabhupada says, Jad Bharat described the miserable material condition and the way to get out. And what did he say? The only way out is to associate with devotees, and it's very easy. So sometimes unfortunate people, suffering people, get this association, but they can't take shelter of pure devotees. So they continue suffering. So this Krishna consciousness movement insists everyone takes to chanting Hare Krishna. Our preachers go door to door to tell people how to get relief from the miseries of material life. And as Lord Chaitanya said, by the mercy of Krishna and Guru, a person can get the seed of devotional service. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, if one is a little intelligent, he can cultivate Krishna consciousness and be freed from the miserable conditions of material life. Verse 40, there were many great saintly kings who were very expert in performing sacrificial rituals and very competent in conquering other kingdoms. Yet despite their power, they could not attain the loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is because those great kings could not even conquer the false consciousness of, I am this body and this is my property. Thus they simply created enmity with rival kings, fought with them, and died without having discharged life's real mission. Yes, well, of course we know the real mission of life for the conditioned soul is to re-establish the forgotten relationship with the Lord, take up devotional service, revive their Krishna consciousness. So it can be done from any position. Do your duty, associate with devotees. But unfortunately, the material leaders are not interested. Material advancement is very attractive, even though ultimately one is defeated because of bodily identification. Thinking things connected to the body belong to him. Nothing belongs to us, not even the body itself. By karma we get our body, And if we don't utilize it in Krishna's devotional service, everything is frustrated. So the real purpose of life is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.13, Atak Pumbir Dvija Shreshta. It really doesn't matter what activity a man engages in. If he can simply satisfy the Supreme Lord, his life is successful. So here we are, devotees, verse 41, the last verse in this section. When the conditioned soul accepts the shelter of the creeper of fruit of activity, he may be elevated by his pious activities to higher planetary systems and thus gain liberation from hellish conditions. But unfortunately, he can't remain there. After reaping the results of his pious activities, he has to return to the lower planetary systems. In this way, he perpetually goes up and down. So Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada refers to Lord Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 19.151, Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Even if one wanders for many millions of years from the time of creation till the time of annihilation, one cannot get free from the path of material existence unless one receives shelter at the lotus feet of a pure devotee. So, as a monkey takes shelter of a branch and thinks he's enjoying, a conditioned soul takes shelter of karma kandya, fruit of activities. I remember once at Govardhan Hill, by the Srinathji temple right down at the end, Punchari, one monkey, there was an old tree there on the side, and one monkey jumped from one tree to that other tree, old broken down tree, and the old tree just fell over with the monkey on it, and poor monkey got a real shock. Right, so in karma kandya, sometimes you go to heavenly planets, sometimes back to earth. This is what Lord Chaitanya calls Brahmanda Brahmate. Brahmate means wandering, Brahmanda, through the universe. But if you're fortunate enough to come under the shelter of a guru, by the mercy of Krishna, then you get lessons how to do devotional service to the Lord. So in this way, he gets the clue how to get out of this struggle in this world. So the Vedic injunction, the first point is, approach a spiritual master. And therefore, what does Mundaka Upanishad, verse 1 to 12 say? Tad vijnanartam sagurum evabhigachet. Have to take shelter of the Guru. And Bhagavad Gita 4.34 also says, Tadvadi pranipatena. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he's seen the truth. Bhagavatam 11.3.21 gives similar advice. Tamad gurum prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. Any person who seriously desires to achieve real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of his spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Similarly, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur advises, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. That's the 8th verse of Gurvastakam, which we sing at Mangalarati. by the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the mercy of Krishna. And this is the same advice given by Lord Chaitanya, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, this is essential. One must come to Krishna consciousness, and therefore one must take shelter of a pure devotee. Thus, one can become free from the clutches of matter. So devotees, look, there are 15 minutes left. There's 5 verses to go. We've finished the first section, now we come to the second. There's only 2. And this is from verse 42 to verse 46, which is the end of the chapter. Section titled, Shukadev glorifies Maharaj Bharat. So, first of all, we'll read the verses. Verse 42. Having summarized the teachings of Jad Bharat, Shukadev Goswami said, My dear King Parikshit, the path indicated by Jad Bharat is like the path followed by Garuda, the carrier of the Lord. And ordinary kings are just like flies. Flies cannot follow the path of Garuda. And to date, none of the great kings and victorious leaders could follow this path of devotional service, not even mentally. Verse 43. While in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was so fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and an enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up, just as one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of his majesty. Verse 44, Shukadev Goswami continued, My dear king, the activities of Bharat Maharaj are wonderful. He gave up everything difficult for others to give up. He gave up his kingdom, his wife, and his family. His opulence was so great that even the demigods envied it, yet he gave it up. It was quite befitting a great personality like him to be a great devotee. He could renounce everything because he was so attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna is so attractive that one can give up all desirable things for his sake. Indeed, even liberation is considered insignificant for those whose minds are attracted to the loving service of the Lord. Verse 45. Even though in the body of a deer, Maharaj Bharat did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when he was giving up the body of a deer, he loudly uttered the following prayer. Wow, this is the prayer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of ritualistic activity. He's the protector of religious systems, the personification of mystic yoga, the source of all knowledge, the controller of the entire creation, and the supersoul in every living entity. He is beautiful and attractive. I'm quitting this body, offering obeisances unto him, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service. Uttering this, Maharaj Bharat left his body, means the body of the deer. Verse 46. Devotees interested in hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam, regularly discuss the pure characteristics of Bharat Maharaj and praise his activities. If one submissively hears and chants about the all-auspicious Maharaj Bharat, one's lifespan and material opulences certainly increase. One can become very famous and easily attain promotion to the heavenly planets or attain liberation by merging into the existence of the Lord. Whatever one desires can be attained simply by hearing, chanting, and glorifying the activities of Maharaj Bharat. In this way, one can fulfill all his material and spiritual desires. One does not have to ask anyone else for these things, for simply by studying the life of Maharaj Bharat, one can attain all desirable things. Gee, isn't that just amazing? So, okay, let's go through with the purports. A section titled Shukadev Glorifies Maharaj Bharat, verse 42. Having summarized the teachings of Jad Bharat, Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear King Parikshit, the path indicated by Jad Bharat is like the path followed by Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, and ordinary kings are just like flies. Flies cannot follow the path of Garuda, and to date, none of the great kings and victorious leaders could follow this path of devotional service, not even mentally." So Prabhupada's purport, Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse 3, Manusyanam Sahasreshu, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. In other words, devotees are very rare, particularly great devotees. So the path of devotional service is very difficult, even for great kings who have conquered many enemies. But although they were victorious in battle, they couldn't conquer the bodily conception of life. And even many yogis and so-called incarnations who say they're perfect, but they're unsuccessful for the same reason. So the path of devotional service is difficult, but it becomes easy if we follow the path of the Mahajans. So now, what is that path? It's the path of Lord Chaitanya, who came to deliver all fallen souls. The path is so easy, anyone can take to it by chanting the holy names. And Prabhupada quotes, Hariyanam, Hariyanam, Hariyanam eva kevalam. And Prabhupada says, we're very satisfied that this path is being opened by this Krishna consciousness movement because so many European and American boys and girls are taking this philosophy seriously and gradually attaining perfection. Amazing. Verse 43, while in the prime of life, the great Maharaj Bharat gave up everything because he was so fond of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Uttama Shloka. He gave up his beautiful wife, nice children, great friends, and an enormous empire. Although these things were very difficult to give up, Maharaj Bharat was so exalted that he gave them up, just as one gives up stool after evacuating. Such was the greatness of His Majesty. So Krishna, Prabhupada explains, it's the name of God, who is so attractive that for him the devotee can give up anything, even things that are very dear. And this was the case with Bharat Maharaj. Yeah, but still, Krishna, oh my Lord, somehow he became attached to a deer and fell down. But despite that, he remembered his devotional service in his life as a deer. Then in the next life as Jad Bharat, he was very careful to stick to Krishna consciousness. So from him we can learn how to become cautious, careful in Krishna consciousness, because a little inattention can affect our Krishna consciousness for a long time. But still, ultimately, any devotional service is never lost. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 40 says that. It's a permanent asset. Prabhupada refers to the Bhagavatam 1.5.6.17. Chaktvasvadharamam charanambhujan hareya. Somehow or other, if one is attracted to Krishna, whatever he does in devotional service is a permanent asset. Even if one falls down due to immaturity or bad association, his devotional assets are never lost. Many examples are Jamil Bharat Maharaj, others. So this Krishna consciousness, again, Prabhupada says, giving everyone the chance to do devotional service. Because a little service will give you an impetus to advance and thus make your life successful. So there's a second paragraph. The Lord's described as Uttama Shloka, which means, Uttama means the best, and Shloka means reputation. Krishna has the best reputation. It's still expanding even now. We're spreading it 5,000 years after the Battle of Kurukshetra. So Prabhupada says every important person in the world must have heard of Krishna by now. Even people who don't like us are chanting Hare Krishna because they say Hare Krishna people should be chastised. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, such foolish people do not want to realize the true value, or do not realize, and do not want to realize, the true value of this movement. But the mere fact that they want to criticize it gives them a chance to chant Hare Krishna, and this is its success. Verse 44, Shukadev Goswami continued, my dear king, the activities of Bharat Maharaj are wonderful. He gave up everything difficult for others to give up. He gave up his kingdom, his wife, and his family. His opulence was so great that even the demigods envied it, yet he gave it up. It was quite befitting a great personality like him to be a great devotee. He could renounce everything because he was so attracted to the beauty, opulence, reputation, knowledge, strength, and renunciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Those are the 6 special opulences. Krishna is so attractive that one can give up all desirable things for his sake. Indeed, even liberation is considered insignificant for those whose minds are attracted to the loving service of the Lord. So purport, Prabhupada says, this verse confirms Krishna's all-attractiveness. Bharat Maharaj was so attracted to Krishna, he gave up everything. Of course, generally materialists, they're attracted by their possessions. Atogriha Kshetra Sutakta Vritaya, Bhagavatam 558, which says, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So these attractions to material things are certainly due to illusion, because they have no value, they're simply diversions for the soul. But our life is successful if we become absorbed in attraction of Krishna's strength, beauty, etc. from the 10th canto. The Mayavadis are attracted to merging, but Krishna's more attractive than that, than the desire to merge. The word abhava means not to take birth again in this material world, but even the devotee doesn't care if he's reborn again, just satisfied serving the Lord in any condition. This is real mukti. Prabhupada refers to Rupa Goswami's famous verse, Iha yasya hare dasye. One who acts to serve Krishna with his body, mind, intelligence, and words is a liberated person even within this material world. So someone who always wants to serve Krishna wants to find ways to convince people about Krishna. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, that is his ambition, the devotee's ambition. It doesn't matter if he's in heaven or hell. This is called Uttama Shloka, Lalasa. Verse 45. Even though in the body of a dear Maharaj Bharat did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Therefore, when he was giving up the body of a deer, he loudly chanted the following prayer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of ritualistic activity. He's the protector of religious systems, the personification of mystic yoga, the source of all knowledge, the controller of the entire creation and the supersoul in every living entity. He is beautiful and attractive. I'm quitting this body, offering obeisances unto him, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service. Uttering this, Maharaj Bharat, in the body of a deer, left his body. So Prabhupada explains all the Vedas are for understanding karma jnana and yoga, but actually the goal is Narayan, the Supreme Lord. We're eternally connected with him via devotional service. So ante Narayana Smriti, the perfection of life is to remember Narayan at the time of death. And this is what Bharat Maharaj did. Even in the body of a deer, he remembered Narayan at the time of death. So took birth as a perfect Brahmin. And Prabhupada says that this is confirmed. Bhagavad Gita 6:41 says, one who falls from the path of self-realization takes birth in a family of Brahmins or wealthy aristocrats. And that's what happened to Bharat Maharaj in his birth after being in the body of a deer. Jad Bharat. As Jad Bharat, he preached the gospel of Krishna consciousness first to King Rahugana. And finally, verse 46, we're a little over time. Devotees interested in hearing and chanting Shravanam Kirtanam regularly discuss the pure characteristics of Bharat Maharaj and praise his activities. If one submissively hears and chants about the all-auspicious Maharaj Bharat, one's lifespan and material opulences certainly increase. One can become very famous and easily attain promotion to the heavenly planets or attain liberation by merging into the existence of the Lord. Whatever one desires can be attained simply by hearing, chanting, and glorifying the activities of Maharaj Bharat. In this way, one can fulfill all his material and spiritual desires. One does not have to ask anyone else for these things, for simply by studying the life of Maharaj Bharat, one can attain all desirable things. Right, so there's an interesting purport here. So this is the summary of the forest of material existence. Yeah. And anyway, let's just go through it briefly. The merchant is the living entity who comes to the forest to make money for sense gratification. The six plunderers of the senses, eyes, ear, nose, tongue, touch, and mind. Bad leader is diverted intelligence. Everything belongs to Krishna, but we take things from him for ourselves, for sense gratification. Jackals and tigers in the forest are our family members. Herbs and creepers are our material desires. The mountain cave is our happy home. Mosquitoes and serpents are our enemies. Rats, beasts and vultures are different thieves. The Gandharva Pura is the phantasmagoria of body and home. Will-o'-the-wisp is our attraction for gold and its color. Material residence and wealth are ingredients for material enjoyment. Whirlwind is attraction to the wife. The dust storm is blinding passion experienced during sex. The demigods control the directions. The cricket's noise are the harsh words of enemies. Impious trees are impious men. The waterless river is the atheists. The blazing forest fire is family life. Meat-eating demons, even cannibals, are government officers. Many ritualistic duties of household life are a tall hill one must cross. The thorns on the hill are the impediments of material life. Sleep is a python. For the small taste in sex, one wants to enjoy someone else's wife, and then you get attacked by the relatives and others attached to that woman. The creeper is one's wife. The lion is imminent death. Herons, crows, vultures are so-called demigods, pseudo-swamis, yogis, avatar, who can't save us from the attack of the lion of death. The swans are perfect Brahmins. The monkeys are extravagant sudras engaged in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The trees of the monkeys are our households. The elephant is ultimate death. We already said that. Oh no, okay, the elephant is ultimate death. And thus all the constituents of material existence are described in this chapter. Tomorrow we'll go on to chapter 15. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.